Hello everyone, it's Alex here from Producer Hive, and today we're going to be looking at Gullfoss by Soundtheory. Really excited to show you this plugin. This is an automated adaptive EQ plugin, so that makes it really effective on the master bus and on multi-mic setups for recordings. It can be really effective also. So what it does is it deals with clashes between frequencies. You can bring up the level of overwhelmed elements using recover, or you can bring down the level of overwhelmed elements using tame. The best approach, as recommended by Soundtheory, is to sort of balance the two in sort of an even load, but of course this is down to personal preference. So really it's whatever sounds best to you. Let's take a listen to the example that I'll be using here. Okay, so a fairly organic mix with quite a lot of body in there, and not an immense amount of detail that is obvious initially. So let's have a play around. So first of all, we're going to mess around with the recover parameter. Instantly, it almost brings back some of those pads, and well, perceived to bring back some of those pads by accentuating the higher end frequency elements, such as the hi-hats and some of the really bright guitar licks. As you can hear when the guitar slides play, it becomes really, really, really clear. Really adding some lovely shine to that high end. Kick drum becomes much more audible too. You can really hear the body of it more. So let's mess around with the tame parameter. It becomes much more airy as we increase this parameter. So this is obviously something we want to be wary of. Really lose that kick drum with too much of the tame applied. So I like those levels on this example at the moment. So yeah, it's clear that we want to be careful between the two. Too much tame can make it seem too airy. Too much recover can do the opposite and make it seem too thick with high-end frequencies. So there's another parameter called bias. And bias determines how Gullfoss reacts in situations where it's less clear whether recover or tame is the suitable option. So thinking here, we probably want a little bit of negative bias. just to reduce some of that airy tameness, that airiness from tame. No, I wanted positive bias to reduce the effect of tame. Really, really clear at the top end. Slightly reducing some of the impact of the lower end, but this is something we can adjust as we go further into it. So you've got another brightness parameter called brightness here, or brighten. And this is like an overall tonality control. It can be used to lift the top end, but it can also be used as in a negative value to sort of reduce the overall like high frequency content if the source material is already quite bright as it is. Those crashes in the background is becoming so audible now. It's really, really nice. So yeah, that brighten's there to sort of control the overall tonality of the EQ's response. I think that's really effective. You might have some really nice controls here, but you're not happy about the overall brightness of the signal. You can just reduce that or increase that, which is really handy. Got another parameter here called boost. Boost affects the overall tonal balance in a way that reflects the way human hearing perception changes with the level. So its action is based on, to some extent, based on the Fletcher-Munson loudness curve, sort of the FM smile, it's known as. But it also has like a bit of a dynamic effect on the EQ rather than applying a static curve. So increasing the boost emphasizes bass frequencies whilst cutting back on the mids. And the actual output level can actually be adjusted using the vertical slider here. So before you think it's just a level parameter, that is not what it is. So we can hear it scooping out a lot of the mid-range frequencies there, but attenuating the highs and lows a little bit more, depending on your negative or positive values. So as I said earlier, that we were kind of losing the kick drum a little bit. Maybe we were really happy with what it was doing to the higher frequencies, but quite happy with the condition of the lows. So what we have here is we have two controls that basically allow you to pinpoint the frequencies in which Gullfoss will affect. So it's not quite a filter. It's almost just like it's almost just cutting the signal away from these frequencies. So in this case, we might want to set it around here, 120. So we get the body of the kick drum, have that not being affected, and then the rest of the signal is being affected. And you can do this obviously for the highs and the lows. You might just want to have the mid bands being affected by the EQ. And the really interesting thing is that you can actually overlap these parameters and have them have the EQ only affect the lows and the highs, and cut out the mids if that's your preference. So that's really, really handy. You do have some meterings, some meters down here. And what this does is it basically informs you on how much the signal's being brightened. Or how much it's being dimmed. The high frequencies are being reduced. And you also have another meter on the side here, which is informing you how much the signal is being recovered or tamed. So it's basically a really handy visual response, just to keep you in check of what you're actually doing to the signal. Of course, always use your ears, but it's nice to have a bit of a visual response there as well. So yeah, Gullfoss is really effective. This is definitely something I'd use precisely. I wouldn't recommend just rushing with this plugin, although you can get some really nice results. You can get into a habit of, you know, something with a bit more recovery or a bit more brightness sounding better. But it's very important to take some time on this and really fine tune it to a point where it's really doing what you need it to do on your overall mix, if that's what you're using it for. Okay, so now we're going to look at Gullfoss on some individual instrument tracks. Here I have a piano, and we're going to see how we can improve the sound of this piano using Gullfoss. So let's take a listen to the example. Okay, so it's quite nice sounding, but a little bit too muddy down in the low mids. Okay, so it's really containing those lower mid frequencies and allowing the higher end frequencies to come through with a lot more sheen and brightness. This in turn allows us to hear the attack phase of the piano much nicer, much clearer. And it also seems to scoop out some of these low mids a bit, which in turn makes the piano sound a little more airy, but less thuddy and in your face. So yeah, it's less intense. So using this brighten control really like tones back that high end sheen and makes it sound a little bit more natural. I really like the high end spark that this is applying here. Just adds that high end clarity. Really great effect. Okay, so now we're going to look at how Gullfoss performs on an acoustic guitar. So I'm going to load up the plugin here and let's take a listen to the example. So it's fairly MIDI, not as bright as I'd like it to be, and sounds a little bit muffled and could do with some life being breathed into it. So let's see what we can do. I much prefer the sound of the bias going towards tame in this instance. Really brings out the roominess of the recording, which I think is a really nice effect. Just gonna have the brighten on minus 10% actually, because I really like that brighter effect that's being performed here. Fantastic. Yeah, I really like the effect of that on the guitar. It's instantly made it sound lifelike and full of energy and character. Just controlling some of those low mids that are really sort of in your face. And just seems to even every other frequency response out. Really nice effect. So yeah, a very, very effective plugin that has some almost otherworldly capabilities. Really beneficial tool for any mixing or mastering engineer's arsenal. I'd strongly recommend you to go out and try this out for yourselves. And yeah, Soundtheory Gullfoss, really great piece of software.